while back, I had a memorable experience while driving home after a long day at work in the city. My house is situated in the suburbs, quite a distance from the city center, so I typically faced an hour-long commute after leaving work at 10 p.m. Fortunately, most of the drive was through deserted roads once I left the city, so it wasn't too bad, except for the time it consumed. On this particular night, I was feeling unusually exhausted. For no apparent reason, it was just one of those days. About half an hour away from my house, I was navigating along a quiet single-lane highway with dim streetlights illuminating my path. Suddenly, I spotted an obstruction ahead on the road, which snapped me wide awake, prompting me to hit the brakes. As I got closer, the fog cleared, revealing the source of the obstruction. A tree had fallen across the entire road. I was baffled. There hadn't been any recent storms or strong winds, and the tree hadn't been there in the morning. I decided to leave the car running, but put it in park before getting out to investigate. There were no other fallen trees or signs of damage in the vicinity. I walked closer, examining both ends of the tree, but it extended from one edge of the forest to the other, with no way around. The situation was undeniably bizarre, and my initial annoyance soon turned into concern. The closest alternative route was a 15-minute drive back and would significantly lengthen my already lengthy commute. I contemplated calling for help, but that would likely take even longer to get the road cleared. As I stood by the fallen tree, a light suddenly flickered to life from the other side, piercing through the branches and leaves. Surprisingly, the light did not come from an approaching vehicle. The car must have been parked there all along, only now deciding to illuminate its lights. I strained to peer through the branches, hoping to discern what was happening. As I did, I heard the unmistakable sound of a car door opening and closing, followed by footsteps approaching from the other side of the tree. In an attempt to ease the tension, I called out, "Hello?" However, the response was a mumbled, incoherent utterance, more for the person's own benefit than a reply to me. It seemed like they, too, were perturbed by the blocked road. Then, the branches started rustling, and a man began climbing over the fallen tree. I took a few steps back, heading closer to my car as the man jumped onto my side of the road. From my vantage point, I could see that he had a short beard, a buzz cut, and was wearing a heavy jacket. He looked at me but remained stoic, not offering a friendly greeting. Instead, he approached me, still without saying a word. A sense of unease welled up within me, and I hurriedly got inside my car, unsure of the man's intentions. He began walking faster, almost breaking into a jog the moment I closed the door. The man came right up to my window and stared at me with a blank, expressionless face, knocking on the window. Anxiously, I asked him what he wanted, but he refused to respond. Instead, he continued to mumble to himself while maintaining unrelenting knocks on the window. His knocks grew more aggressive, evolving into loud, forceful thuds as he began using his fist. I swiftly shifted the car into reverse and backed away, hearing a dull thud on the door, likely the door latch being torn from his grip. It became evident that the situation was far more perilous than I initially believed. I spun the car around and sped away without checking my mirrors to see the man's actions. Once I reached a bypass, I pulled over and reported the incident. Not surprisingly, the man and his car had vanished without a trace. I didn't have much information about the situation, except from my own experience. However, I learned that the workers sent to remove the fallen tree determined that it had been deliberately cut down, potentially with malicious intent. Although the incident made the news, further details remained elusive. Whether the man I encountered was responsible for felling the tree remains a mystery, but his strange behavior and the presence of his car suggest a connection. In the months since, I haven't encountered any more incidents along that route, but I remain vigilant and fully awake during my nightly drives home from work. I work part-time for Uber Eats, fitting it around my college schedule. One evening, after my classes had ended, it was around 11 p.m., and I had a late start the following day, so I planned to stay up late and complete as many delivery orders as possible. At 1 a.m., I received an unusual grocery order from a 7-Eleven to be delivered to an address 15 minutes away. The delivery directions led me through a series of neighborhoods and ultimately to a desolate gravel road. I checked the address on the app, and it pointed to this obscure path. All I could see were safety cones and construction equipment with no streetlights in sight. Carefully, I ventured down the road, switched on my high beams, and navigated until I reached the last turn. The road now resembled more of a path than a proper road. Glancing at the map once more, it insisted the address was at the end of this path. I peered down the path, and as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I noticed a structure in the distance. It vaguely resembled a house, but there was something unsettling about it. I squinted to see, but the darkness didn't reveal much. It seemed like I'd stumbled upon a community of new, partially completed houses surrounded by ongoing construction. Assuming the house on my GPS was one of the first, I parked in an empty cul-de-sac with a solitary house. As I approached, I noticed that the front of the house looked somewhat complete, with a door and all, which puzzled me further. I left the groceries and knocked on the door. The house was in total darkness, and an eerie silence hung in the air. I turned to leave, feeling a sense of unease, and as I reached my car, something caught my peripheral vision. In the dimly lit woods, I saw movement. I halted, staring into the darkness, but whatever it was had ceased moving. I picked up the pace, hopped in my car, and started the engine. As my headlights flashed on, I spotted a man standing precisely where I'd seen the movement in the woods. He fixed his gaze on me, watching intensely as I began to reverse. My heart raced, as I wasn't paying full attention to the road. I had only rolled back about 10 feet when I felt a significant bump at the rear tires, followed by another at the front. The car rocked for a moment, but my adrenaline had me too rattled to assess what had caused it. I floored the gas pedal, veering off the path and into the field. For a moment, it felt like my car was sliding forward without responding to my steering, and I feared I might get stuck like the other car I'd seen earlier. But my tires gripped the ground again, and I managed to swerve back onto the road, hearing a distant gunshot as I sped away. I immediately dialed 911, providing a detailed account of the incident and mentioning the abandoned car in the crop field. The police located the car, but found it empty with no sign of the driver. It was as if the driver had suddenly swerved off the road, gotten stuck, and then vanished. The circumstances eerily mirrored what could have happened to me, but if I had become stuck as well, both of us might have disappeared that night.